After 15 times trying to get enough votes to become the next Speaker of the House, we finally know exactly what the holdouts were asking of McCarthy. Matt Gaetz retweeted out a list of what the 20 Freedom Caucus holdouts achieved. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we are the antidote to the daily onslaught of radical woke Marxist propaganda that is taking our country down. So after all the highly tense House theater, Kevin McCarthy was finally able to get enough votes to wrap up a spectacle that hadn't been seen in the people's chamber for over 100 years, as every mainstream misinformation fake news media outlet has told us relentlessly. So on Saturday night, Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida revealed what the battle against the McCarthy camp was all about. Okay, so Gaetz retweeted an NBC reporter, Sahil Kapoor. But the first one, he retweeted the second one. The first tweet says this: House Republican Rules Package. Now, the Rules Committee, which the Freedom Caucus now has 2 members on, all right, which before they didn't have any, I believe. All right, and that's where the power comes from in the House and in the Senate. It comes from the Rules Committee. So it says House Republican Rules Package. 1 member can force vote to overthrow Speaker. That was that motion to vacate that I had talked about in another video. Changes pay go to cut go. I think that's important. Constrains debt limit and runs. Yes, the point is, they always say that we have to raise the debt ceiling, right? I mean, Barack Obama's the one who said, well, the first time in history, the Republicans don't want us to pay our bills. No, they wanted you to pay your bills, but only up to what you had a spending limit on. The problem is the Congress always goes above that ceiling. So what the hell is the point in having a ceiling, a debt ceiling, if you could just always go over and say, we'll pay it later on? I don't get to do that with that much money. I don't think you do either, okay? Constrains debt limit and runs means that they're not going to give ways around raising the debt ceiling. Okay, 3/5 vote to raise tax rates. There you go, folks. You know, I personally think that if we made a rule that members of Congress could only be paid by a percentage of the average wage in America, the median wage, let's put it that way, okay, I think tax rates would come down. Allow 2-minute votes. Yeah. 72 hours for bills. What that means is you got to let them read a bill more than an hour. So this is what the Democrats would do. At 1 o'clock in the morning, they would drop a bill and say, well, we're going to vote on it in an hour, and it's 5,200 pages. So you got to hire your lawyer clerks to read 10 pages each to go over the fine print, right? I mean, come on. You can't be doing that anymore. So they want 72 hours. It's just 3 days, folks, to be able to read the damn things. All right? Dynamic scoring, education and labor, which is education and workforce, a new COVID select committee. Now, these things I think are kind of important, don't you? Especially the one on 72 hours, because they put out, a 5,000-page bill. and they hide pork among the little tiny ink, right? And this is how a lot of bad things get through, because they just don't have time to go through them. And so, I mean, if you think about this, this is not the Freedom Caucus trying to screw the other side the way that the other side always tried to screw the Republicans. They're saying, look, everybody now gets 72 hours to look at a bill, which I think is important. Okay, so the tweet that Matt Gaetz retweeted, here's what it says. The Republican Rules Package guarantees that 7 bills come up for a vote in the House. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to pass. They just wanted the opportunity to be able to put them up for a vote. Everybody calls them, they're terrorists, they're crazy. No, this is all they wanted. They include cutting IRS funding, restricting migration, and curtailing abortion. So let's start off there. All right. So those three things would never have come up by the McCarthy camp had the 20 holdouts not done what they did. They're against the IRS funding because the Biden administration is adding 87,000 new IRS agents to mostly go after small businesses. Now, I'm not saying anything against the IRS, right, guys? Okay. But this current administration is known to turn every policy with law enforcement into a weapon against middle class and working class families. Just go over the history of them. So they want to restrict migration because this administration has already allowed between 5 and 7 million illegal aliens into the country. All right. And we don't even know where the majority of them are. They're allowed to roam wherever they want. We don't know what their criminal backgrounds are like if they have crimes committed. We don't know their health. You can't add that many people to a population without chaos ensuing, which you can see in the Texas border towns, right? It's why Texas and Arizona governors are shipping them elsewhere to sanctuary cities because they're the ones that said, we welcome you. And the third item, curtailing abortion, I believe it will, and sorry, folks, I believe it should fail. I'm going to be consistent about this, all right? When I did a video, all right, about the Supreme Court in June overturning Roe v. Wade, I said that the federal government does not have a role in abortion because it's a state's issue, okay, states' rights issue. So if the federal government doesn't have the right to create a pro-abortion law, then it does not have the right to create an anti-abortion law. And this is only one thing that I wish the 20 holdouts would have thought through more. But I don't know, maybe they were pushing for the base. I don't know. I'm a big fan of the Freedom Caucus members, trust me, because they're the only ones I believe in Congress who usually try to stay within the boundaries of constitutional purview for the Congress. With that said, curtailing abortion is not within the constitutional purview of Article 1, Section 8, or any of the amendments. Now, I mean, unless they're trying to curtail the federal government from regulating abortion. Well, that I agree with, because they don't have a right to it, and funding, taxpayer funding for abortions. Okay, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing. So it says subsection B provides for the separate consideration of 7 bills under a closed rule with 1 hour of debate equally divided and controlled by the majority leader and the minority leader or their respective designees, and 1 motion to recommit. So just notice the pattern here, folks. They're not trying, like the Democrats do, the 20 holdouts were not trying to grab power just for themselves and say, screw everybody else, we're better than you. No, they're asking for powers in the rules that allow anyone in the House to implement. Okay, so it says subsection C provides the list of bills referred to in subsection B, which include a bill to rescind certain balances made available to the IRS, a bill to authorize the Secretary of Homeland Security, who's a piece of crap, to suspend the entry of aliens and for other purposes. I don't think they should have said authorize, but command, because they pay the bills, right? A bill to prohibit the Secretary of Energy from sending petroleum products from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to China and for other purposes. Joe Biden has been sending millions of barrels of our oil from our Strategic Petroleum Reserve to China and send them to other countries like Ukraine and all. That's for our military in case a war breaks out. That's what it's for. It's not to use to lower the prices of gas at the pump right before a midterm to help your party, and it's not for giving away to our enemies. All right? It goes on. A bill to amend the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act to direct district attorneys and prosecutors' offices to report to the Attorney General and for other purposes. Now, I think the way that they'll get away with this is, well, we're going to fund your offices, so therefore we have oversight. A bill to require the National Instant Criminal Background Check System to notify U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the relevant state and local law enforcement agencies whenever the information available to the system indicates that a person illegally or unlawfully in the United States may be attempting to receive a firearm. Now, they certainly have the power to do that because of the ATF being mentioned in, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms being mentioned in the Constitution. And I don't believe that would be listed as a violation of the Second Amendment. It goes on, a bill to prohibit taxpayer-funded abortions. And I agree on this one because, like I consistently say, the federal government has no role in abortion, so they shouldn't be funding abortions with taxpayer dollars. Folks, this is a no-brainer. And finally, from the tweet, a bill to amend Title 18 USC to prohibit a healthcare practitioner from failing to exercise the proper degree of care in the case of a child who survives an abortion or attempted abortion. Again, folks, they may try to do this under the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness clause of the Declaration by saying that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness in the Declaration is part of the Constitution because they consider three things part of the Constitution: the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution itself, and the Bill of Rights. So they may try to get away with that. Otherwise, I would say that's a state issue once again. Okay, so all the so-called chaos that was created to get these items, I think the majority of those items are very much worth it for what they did. And again, I say that I believe these things, when implemented, will make McCarthy a better speaker because he will be known as the speaker who went along with items that should take the craziness, the nuttiness, the savageness out of the process in the DC swamp. And so that's it. Thanks a lot. Thanks for spending time with us. Check out the videos at the end. You're probably going to like them, and we'll see you in the next one.